Well, hello to anyone that's listening out there. If anyone is indeed listening, hello. Thanks for listening. And this is my first article here from the New York Post, written by Reed Tucker. A Harvard professor says an alien visited in 2017 and more are coming. And this is this rock right here is what's being discussed by this scientist here. The name of this scientist is Professor Abram Loeb, and that is a rendering of Uamo. I will destroy the name. So, this guy. So, he's coming out with a book here on January 26th, basically going through his belief that this is actually some extraterrestrial item, let alone they talk about it could be trash. They talk about it could be a buoy. They're not entirely sure, but he goes through his views on why he believes that this is more than just a traveling rock. They go through a little description on when it appeared and its trajectory in certain areas, but most of the story is about why he thinks it is extraterrestrial. And of course, there's those that are arguing against it. They claim that there's nothing interesting about it whatsoever, that it's just a regular space rock, and that there's nothing to look at. He, on the other hand, claims that there's several things that convinced him that it was more than just a space rock. He claims that it's the sheer way it looks, its geometry, about how it's initially they claimed it was cigar shaped, so its length to width ratio. They said that was very, very rare, and it's not occurring in most space bodies that they've seen. And they even say, or even close. They also talk about how it seemed to be really shiny and very reflective. And that is more typical than stony asteroids or comets, he writes. So that those things were pushing him, but he said the one thing that really convinced him was as the object pushed away from the sun, that it actually accelerated. So previously they had figured out the actual the route it would take when it went around the sun, and it didn't exactly follow this. And of course, they obviously believe that their calculations were fairly good, and they did figure out that it accelerated. They said it didn't accelerate incredibly, but it accelerated enough to be an oddity and enough to be statistically relevant, is what they said. So here you have kind of an image of the item in question. They did, of course, say that they just didn't. We don't have the technology to really see it. That's one of our biggest issues, because they say that one of his hypothesis, is that it could have like a solar sails on it, because it's something that they've discussed, and it's something he's been involved in, with putting solar sails on unmanned machinery. And the belief is that this thing could have them, but of course, with it being a dot, you can't see anything. So with better technology, we'll be able to see better, and it'll help in general. He goes on and talks about how he understands, his views are going to be, people are going to go after him, because it doesn't matter. He could be, Harvard for 40, 50 years and smartest man on the planet, but the moment you start talking about aliens, you're an absolute kook. So, but he talks about how, it needs to be done. The technology needs to be created. Also, because if this is just like space junk, let's say this is just like space junk, or like they say a buoy that's just going around and some race used it to monitor some space, that maybe there's items on other planets, Mars, on the moon, that there's other items that could be discovered because they crashed there. So we need to develop the technology, and not just the technology, just the sheer mindset of not being so dismissive of things, being a little more open to the idea, where if the technology's there, then it could be, it could be proven. But if no one's willing to look, then you're completely wasting your time. Um, this also goes on to talk about how one of the main arguments against it, because his big thing is with the acceleration, but they said, someone came out and said that it was frozen hydrogen that was making it move fast when it went past the comet. But then, of course, he counters with no, that stuff would have already evaporated before it even reached our solar system. So it kind of a he said, she said, kind of an argument going on right here. But otherwise, they don't go in too much detail otherwise. And there's the book. I'm curious on reading, and I think it'd be a pretty good read to see if there's any more little anomalies that maybe they didn't discuss, because they always want to save some things for the book. But I would look into the book if I was you, if I was curious about this kind of stuff. So thank you. So some of these next stories I have are a little random, but I do enjoy covering archaeology, ancient civilizations, things along those lines. So this one right here is actually about a archaeologist, a Peruvian archaeologist. Her name is Ruth Shady, and she's currently at a dig in Peru, discovering a 5,000-year-old civilization, which is very interesting. They say it's one of the oldest civilizations that they have found, and they found multiple items. They found bones used for flutes. They found dwellings, and this apparently dates back to 2627 BCE. So it's an obviously old for 5,000 years old. But the odd thing about the story, beyond the interesting part about the civilization, is the fact that she's getting death threats. She's getting death threats from a family that claims during the 1970s that the Peruvian government gave them control of the land after a agrarian land reform, which was pushed through by a leftist military dictatorship, apparently, in the 1970s. Of course, everyone else denies that they have any single claim whatsoever and that the government actually owns the property, but apparently there was an incident where they drove a large digger on there, and they started to destroy the actual ruins, to the point where the police had to get called in, and now you have a police car that actually patrols the area. It says here that a digger knocked down walls, tore up ground, destroying ancient ceramics, tombs containing mummies, textiles, household remains, before police and the site staff were able to stop them. So it's very weird, because you'd imagine that this family is stopping them because they want to do their own archaeological dig, because you find this old stuff, you can sell it, and that's money involved. But you don't see that in this article. The article doesn't at all indicate that the family wants to use it for anything, and like the paragraph states, they actually were known to destroy a lot of the artifacts, so they don't want the artifacts, they're just destroying it. Very, very strange, but I found it interesting, so I thought you might enjoy it. This next odd story that I have is, if you've watched some different YouTubers, or maybe you've kept on some of the weird happenings that go into, not just UFOs, but kind of odd paranormal things. One of the things you'll read about is mysterious booms. That was reported on quite often. Many people would indicate that there was booms going on in their area, their city, their county, and no one knew what they were. Even after investigations, the police force would investigate it, and no one would know. So this is out of, looks to be North Carolina, Forsyth County, North Carolina, if I got that right, hopefully. But it indicates here that there was multiple residents reported loud booms coming from the Triad communities, to the point where they overwhelmed the 911 service. They actually put out a message talking about how the 911 service is only for emergencies, as you can see here in these big bold letters. And as usual with the topic, there was no one knew. People were spoken to. They did investigations as of right now. and nothing. These booms occur. Some people claim, that it sounds like underground drilling or underground explosions. Some people say it sounds more of maybe a jet, maybe some kind of advanced fighter jet that we can't see that's, breaking the sound barrier or something along those lines. But it's an interesting, random, mysterious topic that I wanted to cover just to have it there. But if you like it, tell me. Thanks. So this last one's going to be a little long. If you're not interested, maybe you're not. This is about just space discoveries. I find being interested in the UFO topic and the alien topic makes you far more interested in just the weird things that happen in the galaxy. And there is a lot of weird things that happen that go beyond UFOs. You have radio emissions from an alien world. Oh, sorry, I should probably tell you that. This is 9 epic space discoveries you may have missed in 2020. So, radio emissions from an alien world. You have a radio emission that came from a gas giant called Tau Botis system, just 51 light years from Earth. That could help them learn more about exoplanet's magnetic field, which could offer clues to what's going on in its atmosphere. So you never know. Maybe there's something there. Interesting. And then you have X-ray blobs bursting from the Milky Way. So this here talks about millions of years ago, there was an explosion at the center of the Milky Way. And this energy is still reverberating, and they can still see it. It says right here, you can look at it to the lower 25,000 light year, the Fermi bubbles, to a width of 45,000 light years end to end. They've named these the Rosetta bubbles, and as you can see in this photograph here of our flat galaxy, these explosions or the remnants of these are huge. I mean, beyond comprehension huge. This one's interesting. People saw this coming in. They thought it was like a moon or something, but they realized that it was just an old NASA rocket from the 1960s, a booster. So that's pretty interesting. And then you have these ghostly circles, which I'd imagine, hopefully, ghosts just get you interested in general. They call these things orcs, discovered in 2019, and reported in 2020. They're round blobs visible in radio telescope data, and they don't look like anything like known objects. They don't. I've read about these when they were first revealed or found. They really don't know what they are. They have guesses. They've thrown guesses at it, but honestly, they're not sure, and I find that to be fascinating. I mean, who knows what more? If this is just one thing we don't know, I mean, there's probably millions of things we don't know. A million new galaxies. So you have right here the radio telescope in Australia outback mapped 83% of the observable universe over the course of 300 hours. It revealed a big haul of data, 3 million galaxies, a full million of which had never been seen before. So it relies on 36 antennas, which is huge, by the way. So I thought that was interesting in general. And then you have a hint of life on Venus. And this right here talks about when they're getting ready to look at the phosphane, a smelly gas thought to be possible signature of life on alien planets. They trained their phosphane hunting telescope on Venus first. They wanted a reference image from a surely dead world, but its shocking twist, they found the components in Venus's clouds. So it could mean that there's some kind of life there, and who knows what. Hopefully we can actually go there at some point and check it out. That would be nice. A newborn magnetar, which, to be honest with you, I've never heard of a magnetar before, but there it is. And apparently what it is the combination, or not combination, I should say. It's actually the merging of two neutron stars together, and they form this huge supermagnetic neutron star during the collision, which is insane. Just things combining. I mean, you have black holes combining that do amazing things. The magnetars may also be responsible for the brightest flashes of light in space. They're fast radio bursts, which of course, is one of the things that you have SETI looking for, and this is one of the things that could confuse them. So that's why I think a lot of times they're unwilling to present a lot of information or present their views, because I mean they could be proven wrong and then their credibility gets shot. And the aliens that might see us. So astronomers detect alien planets by watching them pass between Earth and their stars, and they claim that they could actually see like the glint of a civilization on the planet, but it has to pass between the planet has to pass between us and their own sun. If it does that, then we're actually able to see it better. And by doing that, we could actually see if maybe there's actually life. But as you know, light takes forever to actually move anywhere, so that would be far more difficult to see. But I'm not that scientist, so I'm assuming they have ways. That's the end of that. I thought that was interesting. If you survived through that, I thank you. And if you want to see more or listen to more rambling, then please listen to more. Thanks.